Hello, today I'm here to talk to you about why a lot of people think EasyStringer is a weak machine. It looks like it's a simple toy, it looks like maybe it could break easily. Some people think, will my racket really be okay stringing on this? Can it really string high tensions, 65 pounds? Is it okay to use such a simple little thing? And I'm here to explain to you that yes, it is. No problem, don't worry about it. And this is why. Okay, here we go. This is a Stringer ML100, but this is not about a stringing machine. It's about pretty much any machine other than EasyStringer. Pretty much all the machines on the market, 99% of the machines on the market are built like this. They all have the same, they're all similar in many ways. And I'm going to point out all the similar facets of the typical stringing machine. Now, first of all, they're built to be very strong, very heavy most of the time because they're under a lot of stress from many different areas. Okay, here we go. I pull a string. When I pull the string, let's say I pull it at 50 pounds. That means you're pulling this racket at 50 pounds, not just a string, because you have to make sure the racket doesn't move. And this tension head, it can't move either. So this tension head is also being pulled at 50 pounds. They're both being pulled towards each other. So because they're being pulled towards each other, you have to make sure they don't move. So in order to make sure they don't move, you need, first of all, to create a base here. So that's why, first of all, the machine starts to get a little bit bigger and heavier. You have a base, and when you have a base, you have to make sure that the tension head is firmly attached to the base. You have to make sure that the turntable is attached to the base so that they don't move when you're pulling the string. Okay? Now, another distance that you have to think about is the distance between the table and the racket. Now, you have this much distance. This is a lot of distance. Now think about it. Because let's suppose this distance was twice as high, maybe 3 times as high. The more distance you have between the racket and the table, the more stress there is on the entire system. This is quite a bit of distance. And suppose you're pulling 20 strings at 50 pounds. 20 mains at 50 pounds. That's 1,000 pounds. That's a ton. You have a ton of force being exerted on the system. And when you have a ton of force, you have to make sure the racket is supported. So therefore, you have these tension posts that are really big and fat and strong, and you have to make sure that the racket at 1,000 pounds does not warp or break or anything. So the posts need to be very strong to make sure, otherwise if the post breaks, then it's useless. So to prevent it from breaking and make it very strong, but at the same time, the table is under a lot of stress as well to make sure that the posts don't move. So if the table starts to curve in, bend inwards, that's not good either. So the table can't do that. So the table needs to be very strong, very big, very sturdy. Okay? So we take a look at EasyStringer, and first of all, the racket is so very close to the table that there's very little stress on the system here. You don't need these big, fat, sturdy frame posts. All you have to do is just make sure that it's attached to the table. So that's why the table too is under very little stress. It's very hard to get a table to bend when the racket is so close to the table. And when you pull the string, this is the tension head. When I pull the string, as I pull, I push against the racket. It's the same amount of force, pushing and pulling, same amount of force, pushing and pulling. So again, the tension head does not need to be It does not need to be anchored anywhere. The racket, the table does not to be anchored anywhere because there's no force between it. It's all plus minus zero. And as an added benefit, as it's pulling the string, it's pushing the frame, so it's actually working as another support. When you pull the string, is a support to the frame when you pull the string. So overall, in this system, there's very little stress going on. And that's why for EasyStringer, it's okay for it to be this light and simple, because there's very little stress for it to fight against. So there's very little that can break in the system.